let's now move to a different story. And this is a story that this platform has taken a lot of heat over because some people think we should just be devoting every episode to just this. This is the allegations connected to the Obama administration's handling of intelligence information at the end of the 2016 campaign and then into 2017. And I'll restate my position on this. I don't like wild accusations about treason without clear evidence. I just don't like it from either party. I think it's coarse and corroding of faith in democracy and our system. At the same time, I think anybody on the left or anybody who's fair-minded who doesn't look at the players involved in the Steele dossier and in the use of intelligence and the ability to manipulate reporters, you got to look at the history of these folks and say they could have done worse than they've been charged with so far. They could have, because they clearly felt free to use the power of the White House and the power of the intelligence community and the deep state to try to harm Donald Trump. We know they did that. So given that they did it, and that's FBI agents, that's people in the intelligence community, given that they did it, we shouldn't close our minds to the possibility, as I said, that they did worse than they were accused of. So today, Senator Grassley, who's long been on these issues of Iowa, released this memo, number 9, declassified a 2016 memo in which it's alleged, you won't be able to read it there, but it's alleged that Hillary Clinton approved misleading messaging about Russia to try to harm Donald Trump. Caroline Levitt took this up at the briefing today. Here she is, number 10.
Well, I think a major organization of the national security apparatus, at least here at the White House within the National Security Council, has indeed taken place, and the president entrusts his current CIA director, John Ratcliffe, and our ODNI director, Tulsi Gabbard, to make the necessary changes to ensure classified intelligence, especially that could implement or hurt the national security of our country, does not make its way into the hands of irresponsible actors who want to politicize that intelligence for their own end. Since you brought up the declassification report that was put out by Senator Grassley today, I'm glad you brought it up, because this should be a story every outlet in this room should be covering. This is further evidence that Hillary Clinton approved the Russia hoax against President Trump. Her campaign financed it. Again, she approved it. And the FBI and the CIA were both weaponized to, as our director of CIA has said, accelerate this hoax against then candidate and former President Trump. To answer the heart of your question, the president wants to see justice served, and he trusts the Attorney General and the Department of Justice to implement that justice and hold these people accountable.
Okay, so I know from the chat, which I don't read, but I glance at, there are members of this community who think this is a hoax. This is meant to be a distraction from Epstein, that it's a made-up thing. And then there are members of our community who think this is one of the biggest scandals in American history, and it needs to be further investigated. I'm agnostic. I just want the facts. But I'll say again, if you're on the left, or you write for the New York Times, the Washington Post, you can't rule out that these people who invented the Steele dossier, that these people who said 51 intelligence officers said the Hunter Biden laptop had the earmarks of a Russian operation. These people are playing hardball, and that's Jake Sullivan and Tony Blinken, Mr. Clapper and Mr. Brennan, and others. Mr. Clapper and Mr. Brennan wrote an op-ed in the New York Times today saying that not only were they innocent, but that this is a hoax intended to distract. Here is Mr. Brennan, who also gets paid by MSNBC to recount history, earlier today, number 12.
Well, if the director of CIA and the director of national intelligence make referrals to the Department of Justice, I think the Department of Justice has to do something to respond to it. So putting together an internal strike force, whatever, to take a look at this information is certainly, I think, understandable. But also, I'd like to think that professionals in the Department of Justice will dismiss any of these referrals because they're baseless. They really are. So again, I stand ready to continue to talk about the assessment and what we did during that period of time. There was absolutely no conspiracy. And we continue to stand behind what it is that we have said publicly.
Amber, what's your overall sense of this story? Is based on what we know now, is there a reason to think that, of course, the New York Times and the Washington Post should be writing about this, or is the information still too vague in your mind?
I think the documents that were released by Tulsi Gabbard were very revelatory. This latest Grassley release, to an extent, but not as much. What we basically learned today was that not only was Hillary Clinton approving this messaging to tie Trump to Putin, but that she also believed that perhaps getting these materials to the FBI or encouraging an investigation would help divert attention away from her email scandal. And she thought that Obama would be willing to help her with that. But the Gabbard documents are more pointing towards the potentially criminal aspect of this, which is that there were intelligence officials who repeatedly told their superiors, including Brennan, Clapper, and even the president himself, that they did not have evidence that Russia was actively trying to help the campaign of Donald Trump, and that they were more interested in sowing division. And in fact, elements of the Steele dossier were themselves Russian disinformation, so they did hurt Trump as well. And that they actually changed intelligence assessments at the behest of their superiors in order to reach that conclusion to justify the creation of the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. And in fact, after the election in November of 2016, Obama canceled a presidential daily briefing where the intelligence community was set to say that exact thing, that they believe Russia wanted to meddle but didn't have the capability of doing it. They weren't trying to actively help either candidate, that they were trying to basically just hurt the democratic process. Obama canceled it, sent them back, effectively told them to reach a different conclusion. They came back in and said, oh yeah, Russia totally tried to help Trump. And this all came from Brennan himself, who claims to this day that he had access to some secret classified information that nobody else could see, that told him that, yeah, Russia was totally trying to help Trump. And I think that timing is important after the election, because the president-elect would have been privy to the presidential daily briefings at that time. And Gabbard suggested during a recent White House press briefing that the potential motivation for them canceling that briefing was that they did not want Trump to have access to materials that would have effectively killed the collusion narrative in its tracks.
Amber, thank you. Very well said. Want more great clips like that? I've got an idea. Hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss a clip, and you can always watch our full episodes, join them live, go to twoway.tv.